Agnostics. And one of the things that we look at when we look at the chapter, We Agnostics, is the title of the chapter. Now, I went over this last week. I'm going to do it again this week because that is what I like to do, is sort of go back and then go forward. But when we do start, we're going to start on page 44, where it says, but it isn't so difficult. It's near the 3/4 mark down the page, but it isn't so difficult on page 44. But let's just talk for a minute before we get started on page 44, but it isn't so difficult. The title, We Agnostics. Now, Bill was a Christian, and Bill was coming out of the Oxford groups, which were Christian in nature. And the Oxford groups were people who were practicing first century Christianity to the very best of their ability. And Bill went into the Oxford groups at the behest of Ebbe, who went in at the behest of Roland Hazard and Sieber Graves Jr., who went in because Dr. Jung in Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland, impressed upon Roland how a spiritual experience was vital to his recovery from alcoholism. It used to be a sign in the meetings. I haven't seen it for many years. I don't go to live meetings much anymore, but there used to be a sign in the rooms that we shared with AA. It said, Dr. Jung told Roland, Roland told Ebbe, Ebbe told Bill, Bill told the world. And what were they referring to? They were referring to the spiritual answer to the problem of alcoholism. When we did Bill's story, we talked about the history of step 2. We talked about how the spiritual solution came into the program because for thousands of years, there was no solution to alcoholism that was even remotely viable, remotely workable, and none of it was even remotely successful. None of it worked. What is an agnostic? An agnostic is someone who's not sure there's a God. They just don't have enough evidence right now, one way or the other. Ag means without. Gnostic means knowledge, without knowledge. That's what it means. And if you look at the title of the chapter, it doesn't say to those agnostics. It doesn't say to the agnostic. It says we agnostics. Why is that? Bill was a believer. Dr. Bob was a believer. Ebbe had been raised as a child in a Christian home. Many of them came out of the Oxford groups and were Christians. Now, Jimmy Burwell was an atheist. Yes, absolutely. But why does it say we agnostics? Because anybody, even the most sincere believer, the rabbi, the minister, the priest, the nun, the deacon, the elder, the official in the temple, in the synagogue, has pockets of agnosticism. What does that mean? God, I want you to control my food, but I'm going to hang on to controlling my love life. God, I want you to control my love life, but I'm going to hang on to my food and my money. And how does that sometimes translate out? You hear people all the time, and they're talking about, I just get 4 or 5 days of abstinence and then I eat. And I get 3 or 4 days of abstinence and I eat. What do I do? What am I doing wrong? Well, one of the things they're doing wrong is they continue to traipse out the weakest and most useless tool they have in their locker, and that is their willpower. And when the urge to eat hits me, when I was early in OA, I would try to fight that urge to eat with my unaided willpower, and I tried to get in there and fight Muhammad Ali in his prime and not eat. Damn it, I'm just not going to eat that fried chicken. Damn it, I'm not going to eat that pizza. And every single time, I would succumb to that desire. How do I display my faith? I could walk around here saying, I believe in God, I believe in God, I believe in God, and I do. But if I'm not willing to take that action, of making the phone call, if I'm not willing to take that action and pray and then make the phone call and say, I am in the grocery aisle, I want to eat potato chips, help me, pray with me, talk to me, I'm going to eat those potato chips. So we find that in the person who is truly a believer, that belief for us must translate into action most of the time. But an agnostic is somebody who isn't quite sure. And many of us have pockets of that agnosticism. That resentment I have against Joe, that resentment I have against Mike or Mary or Lucy or whoever that is, I'm going to hang on to that resentment, but I want everything else taken by God. That's a pocket of agnosticism. It's very clear in the book that resentment is the number one offender. It kills more alcoholics than anything else. But damn it, I'm not letting go of that resentment because she did me wrong, and I am not going to let them off the hook. If I am afflicted with the disease of compulsive overeating, I have an illness, it says on page 43, at the very bottom of the page 43, it says, once more, because he's already told me this in the chapter more about alcoholism, he says at certain times, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. So I have to stop thinking I can take my willpower out of the closet, use it, and be successful. Not going to happen. Never has, never will. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power. Now let's go to page 44. But it isn't so difficult. About half our original fellowship were of exactly that type. What type? The type that is described as to be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. Why is that so hard for us? Well, I can explain it. Many of us have resentments against God and the world that are so deep-seated. They are so ingrained into us that they become part of our reality. I can't believe in God when children are getting killed in the Middle East. I can't believe in God because of the Holocaust. I can't believe in God when there was slavery and racial prejudice. I can't believe in God because of the Trail of Tears. What about all the injustice in the world? What about all the little kids that are born with cancer? I know a man. He's a pediatric oncologist. What he sees on an everyday basis would make a billy goat wretch. There's a lot of things in this world that none of us can explain. But here's what I know. God didn't do those things. And when injustice strikes, when kids get sick, God is crying too. But let's take the disease and the sickness part out for just a second. God, in my opinion, did not put a bunch of robots on the earth. He put a bunch of people. And as people, we have free will. As people, we can do good or we can do bad. We can harm or we can help. We can be just or we can be unjust. I believe that when war and injustice and Holocaust and Trail of Tears and slavery and racial injustice are happening, God is crying too. because there were people that did horrible things and continue to do horrible things. Now, here is my choice. I can live in spite of that or die because of it. What is my choice to be? Is this the hill that I want to die on? Now, look, you don't have to be around here long to know that my family was affected greatly by murder and mayhem in Europe when people of my faith were exterminated, even before Hitler. I am a survivor of a survivor. I am a survivor of a survivor. If you can convince me, not here, not now, but call me later, if you can show me, walk me through how me eating ice cream is going to bring back one Holocaust victim, I will eat ice cream today in amounts that would stagger your brain. If you can convince me that by me eating pizza, it is going to emancipate a slave, I will eat pizza. Walk me through that. If you can convince me that the injustices of the world will be righted by me eating cookies, I will eat lots of cookies today. I got a thing here. I got a credit card. I got a debit card. I got a card from one of the discount places where you can buy things like wholesale, and when they sell you pickles, they sell you like 8,000 pickles at a time, or like 82 things of ketchup at a time. I live alone. That's not really useful for me, but there are things there that I buy, among like gasoline and stuff like that I do buy there. I got their credit card too. But you probably can't convince me that hating God and eating ice cream is going to rectify the injustices of the world. You probably cannot convince me of that. It is probably not going to be something that you are going to be able to convince me of. But some of you had convinced yourself, because it's not a reason to overeat, but it is an excuse. And there is a vast difference between a reason and an excuse. So we will wallow in the food and wallow in self-pity and wallow in anger over things that we have no control over and things that happened before we were born. So I have to make a decision. Do I want to live or do I want to die? Do I want to live? And if I want to live, there are things I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have a God concept that is benevolent, generous, loving, peaceful, full of love, not judgment. That's the only kind of God that works for me. Maybe you need a God that's draconian. Maybe you need a God that's punishing. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to even know. I don't care. As long as you believe in that there is a power greater than yourself. I don't think today, but next time we're together, we're going to read a line that says, do I believe, or am I even willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself? And if I'm willing to believe that, then I'm on my way. So looking at the spiritual way of life, or living doomed to an alcoholic death, generally the reason that it's so hard for us to believe in God is we don't want to surrender. We don't want to surrender. Or we convince ourselves God is there for the big things, and not my food, and not my romance, and not my finance, and not my health, and not my security, whatever that may be. I'm not here to tell you as a theologian what God should be. I'm not here to tell you as a rabbi, a priest, or a minister what you should believe or not believe. I have no such knowledge or power, and I have no concern. What you believe or how you believe, that's up to you. Don't believe, it's all up to you. It's all good. Are there agnostics that recover? Yes. Are there atheists who recover? Yes. As long as you believe that there is a power greater than yourself. Let's keep going. At first, some of us tried to avoid the issue, hoping against hope we were not true alcoholics. But after a while, we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis of life or else. Let's take a look at that sentence because it's very important. You can try to avoid a relationship with God and try to use this as a dieting club. And there are people that do that. They're not successful. This is not a diet and calories club. This is Overeaters Anonymous, and it's fashioned after Gamblers Anonymous, which is fashioned after Alcoholics Anonymous. And in those programs and our program, a willingness to believe that there is a power greater than myself is an absolute requirement. And the relationship that I have with that God is an ever-changing relationship as life changes. This has been a heck of a year for me. I lost a relationship. I lost a dear friend. On March 15th, my friend of 55 years went to bed and did not ever wake up. I lost my surrogate mother in this year, in June, 93 years old. She was a force of nature. What a woman, what a person. She was the one that brought me to my very first OA meeting 46 years ago on February 2nd, 1979. She's the one that stepped in my life after my parents died. My mom died when I was 22. My dad died when I was 24. And she stepped in and she did a lot of things for me. She had a family of her own, a husband, 4 children, a house. She had more than enough things to keep her busy, yet she always seemed to find the time to do things for me that I didn't even know that I needed to have done. And she left this earth this year. So I've had a hell of a year. But I'll tell you what never happened this year. Not one time did one molecule of food enter my mouth that did not belong there. Not one time did I ever lose faith in God. The reason is I work my butt off in this program. I do the work that's necessary. I will find a spiritual way of life or I will die in the food. I do not want to die in the food. I want to die with the disease of compulsive overeating, not from the disease of compulsive overeating. There is a difference. If I die with the disease, I'll die from something else. If I die from this disease, I'll have my leg or legs cut off. I'll be diabetic. I'll be on dialysis. The shunt will get infected incessantly. I will die the death of my mother. And I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want to go to God in that kind of pain. I don't want to go to God in the food. I don't want to go to God in the disease. The disease for me means I'm a disgrace. I'm a laughing stock. I couldn't walk down the street without people laughing at me. I couldn't walk down the street and not have people honk their horn at me and go, "Why don't you go on a diet, fatso?" And I had to pretend that it didn't bother me. I was an object of ridicule. I was the butt of jokes. And here I am today. I've lost over 500 pounds. I have 26 years of abstinence. I have a life that includes people. I have a life that includes real joy. I can't wait to get to Newark this week for the wonderful, beautiful convention. I can't wait to get there. I hope that most of you are coming, or many of you are coming too. And then we have the OA birthday coming up in Los Angeles in January. I'm going to that. What a great way of life this is for me. What a great way of life. And all that's required of me is a willingness to believe that there is a power greater than myself, and to take simple, not always easy, but simple actions to enhance that power in my life. The wages are very high, the work is hard, but the wages of this program are very, very high. I get to live. I walk 3 miles a day, 6 days a week. I have a financial life that works. I'm not a rich man, but I'm not a poor man. I own my car, paid cash for it. I own my house. I'm not a rich man. I still have to work. I'm 71. I wish I didn't, but I am not a poor man. My bills are paid. I have no debt. This works. Let's continue. Perhaps it is going to be that way with you. I'm on page 44. But cheer up. Something like half of us thought we were atheists or agnostics. Our experience shows that you need not be disconcerted. If a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. What he's telling you there is my willpower, my desire not to eat is not enough. If it were enough, I would have recovered when I was 6, when I was 5. I went on my first diet at about 5 years of age. People were screaming at me and screaming at my parents that I'm too fat. So I tried as best I could not to eat the things I liked. Candy and fries and all that kind of junk. I couldn't do it. And now that I'm 71, I still can't. I need God's help. In the next chapter, it says, without help, it is too much for us. May you find that one, that God, may you find him now. It's too much. And yet, I see thousands of people, including me, that will traipse out that willpower and damn it, I'm not going to night eat tonight. Damn it, I'm not going to eat that, or I'm not going to eat this. And yet we can't do it because we haven't been convinced that without help, it is too much for us. We are still thinking we can do this on our own willpower. And that idea has to be smashed. Let's go to the next paragraph on page 45. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, but it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Doesn't have to be God. You don't have to believe in a religious deity. You don't have to be a theologian or a clergyman. You don't have to have a knowledge of God that would rival any rabbi, priest, imam, ayatollah, minister. You don't have to have a knowledge of Bible to work this program. All you have to be is willing to believe, not even believe, but willing to believe that there is a power greater than yourself. You don't have to believe, you don't have to know much. You don't have to understand every nuance of the Bible. You don't have to know that. All you need to do is what's in front of you, and that is the steps, and God will take care of the rest. Obviously, but where and how were we to find that power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Now, the next sentence is the thesis line of the big book. There is no sentence more important in the book than this next sentence. Its main object is to enable you to find a power, capitalized, greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. The main object of this book is to help you find a power greater than yourself that will solve your problem. Did you notice it does not say the main object of this book is to help you get abstinent or sober? So when you walk around meetings and you hear people say, abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception, don't be one of those people if you can avoid it. Abstinence is not the most important thing in my life without exception. If it were, it would say the main object of this book is to help you find a food plan that will solve your problem. It doesn't say that. It says help you find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Abstinence is the entrance ramp to the highway. I am not discounting the absolute vital nature of abstinence. I am not telling you you shouldn't be abstinent. I'm not telling you it's okay to go eat cookies or go eat anything that's not in your food plan and in the proper amounts. I'm not telling you that. What I'm saying, this for me, the relationship with God is paramount to everything else. And if I'm abstinent and I keep building on that relationship to God, the thought of food will not enter my head. How do I work on that relationship with God? By working the steps and sponsoring other people every day of my life. By sponsoring, working 10s, plural, 11, singular, 12s, plural, I will be immune to the thought of eating extra food. It simply does not enter my mind. It just doesn't. And so we have a situation here where we have to sort of change our thinking away from the pagan ways that we came from and the diets that we went on, where the main object of Weight Watchers or one of them or whatever, the main object of those things is to get to a certain weight. And yes, that's important here too. OA itself defines abstinence as being at or approaching a healthy body weight. Abstaining from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviors while working toward or maintaining a healthy body weight is the definition of abstinence that OA has. I can't keep gaining weight or maintaining a level of morbid obesity and calling myself abstinence. The physical aspect of this disease must be addressed, and that is addressed through abstinence and an ever-changing food plan. I hate to tell you this, but as I age, I get less food. The older I get, the less food I have on my food plan. And when they take a food away, I'm not getting it back. But the most important thing in this scenario is my relationship with God. Now, how do I expand my relationship with God? By working with other people. If I'm not sponsoring, I'm not working the program. Does that apply to you if you're on step 1 or 2 or 3? No, not yet. But I hear all the time people, I don't want to sponsor. I'm not going to sponsor. That's your choice. That's fine. But if I'm not sponsoring, I'm not going to recover. I cannot recover and not sponsor. Can't do it. Can't be done. Because that's how I expand and enlarge my spiritual life, is through service and self-sacrifice for others. The main object of this book is to help you find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Notice it's singular, doesn't say problems. One of the things that I was upset about decades ago is I lost a lot of weight. Why do I still have money problems? Why can't I get a girlfriend? Why can't I drive a Mercedes? Why can't I whatever? Why can't I be the first baseman for the Cubs? Or why can't I be the quarterback for the Bears? It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Losing weight does not solve my problems, but it solves my problem. And when my problem is solved, now I have more mental capacity, more inner resources with which to deal with money, romance, the world, people. I'm not consumed every minute of every day with this one thought. How do I get more of that? How do I get away from people so I can eat this, this, and this? How am I going to get the money to buy this, this, and this? I don't have to wear myself down with that kind of crap, with that kind of garbage. I'm free. I'm not walking around with fear and guilt and shame and remorse. Who saw me going to McDonald's? Who saw me going into the bakery? And who saw me going into the donut shop? Nobody. Every time I would sneak in at 700 pounds to a donut shop, somebody invariably saw me. Somebody invariably spread the word. Paul Revere, the British are coming, the British are coming. Harlan was in the donut shop. Harlan was in the donut shop every frickin' time. And I lived in that fear. I lived in the fear of, I told Fred that I'm a Democrat, and I told Larry that I'm a Republican, and now they're at the same party and they're talking. What am I going to do if they compare notes? I told Mary I like blue. I told Susie I like red. Now they're talking to each other because I was so scared you wouldn't like me or that you would abandon me. Now I can trust God. Now I can trust God. And God will do for me what I cannot do for myself. And I found that now that I tell the truth about who I am and what I like and what I want to do or not do or go or not go or whatever that is, now that I tell the truth, I'm not exhausted. Lying is exhausting. Lying is exhausting. So now I am here as myself. That's God. Is it odd or is it God? It's God for me. Let's continue. That means we have written a book which we believe to be spiritual as well as moral. What does moral mean? It just means truth, truthful. And it means, of course, we are going to talk about God. Here, difficulty arises with agnostics. Many times we talk to a new man and watch his hope rise as we discuss his alcoholic problems, plural, and explain our fellowship. But his face falls when we speak of spiritual matters, especially when we mention God, for we have reopened a subject which our man thought he had neatly evaded or entirely ignored. We're not asking you to go back to the religion of your childhood if you don't want to. We're not asking you to believe or do anything you don't want to do. We're not asking you for that. We're asking you to open your mind to the possibility that there's a power greater than you. And with that in your mind, that there is a power greater than yourself, you are on your way. You don't have to believe in my religion or my God, and I don't have to believe in yours. I don't have to believe your way. But here's what we all must believe, or we're not going to recover. That there is a power greater than ourselves, and we tap into that power by working the steps and helping others. Is that so difficult? Look at the rewards. Look at the rewards. I'm alive and I'm living my life. And when I go to Newark, I don't have to be embarrassed when the flight attendant gets done with her little demonstration and holds up the extender belt for the seat belt and says, now who needs the extender belt? I don't have to put my hand up. Do you know how emancipated I feel by that? I can fit in a plane seat. Now, nobody's comfortable in an airplane seat. Don't tell me that you are, unless you're flying first class. Maybe then. Nobody's comfortable in these fakakta little seats with the 3 inches of leg room and you're squeezed in there like a bunch of sardines, and nobody's comfortable with that. But as comfortable, and I fly in the middle seat. You know, sometimes I have flown in the middle seat. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. What a miracle. I can walk to the gate. What a miracle. I'm alive. What a miracle. I haven't compulsively overeaten in 26 years. What a miracle. My bills are paid. What a miracle. I have friends. I've had friends my whole life, but I have good friends in and out of OA. How lucky am I? How lucky am I? Wow. What a great way of life. What a great God. What a program. What a program. We know how he feels. I'm at the bottom of 45. We have shared his honest doubt and prejudice. Some of us have been violently anti-religious. To others, the word God brought up a particular idea of him with which someone had tried to impress them during childhood. Perhaps we rejected this particular conception because it seemed inadequate. With that rejection, we imagined we had abandoned the God idea entirely. We were bothered with the thought that faith and dependence upon a power beyond ourselves was somewhat weak, even cowardly. We looked upon this world of warring individuals, warring theological systems, and inexplicable calamity with deep skepticism. We looked askance at many individuals who claimed to be godly. How could such a supreme being have anything to do with it all? And who could comprehend a supreme being anyhow? Yet in other moments we found ourselves thinking when enchanted by a starlit night, who then made all this? There was a feeling of awe and wonder, but it was fleeting and soon lost. It's easy to believe in God when you're looking at a baby or a puppy or a kitty. Easy to look at a bear cub or a lion cub and say, oh, there's a great God. You got to look at it in the same way when things don't go so right, that it's going to be okay. I just have to do the next right thing. I just have to do the next right thing. Okay? That's all I have to do. I don't have to know anything. It's what I do. This is not a program for people who need it. This is not a program for people who want it. This is a program for people who do it. This is an action program. This is not a program for people who need it or want it. It's a program for people who do it. Okay? Very important. Yes, we have agnostic temperament have had these thoughts and experiences. Let us make haste to reassure you. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. I can't comprehend God. I don't know why there's injustice in the world. I don't know why. I don't know. And it's okay not to know. What I do know is that I will be damned if I'm going to let headlines or Hitler or the people that murdered my family kill one more Jew. Not going to happen. I'm going to live right to the minute that I die. Right up to the minute I die, I'm going to live. And I am going to enjoy life to the best of my ability. Yeah, there's things about my life I wish were different. That's part of the human condition. This isn't Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. This is life. I don't get to win the lottery because I'm such a great guy and if you really love me, you give me the lottery numbers. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. How it does work is that I get to help the next person. I feel alive when I'm abstinent. I feel alive when my ankles aren't so swollen that there's pus running out of the back of my cankle. I feel alive today when I can walk out into the world and get in and out of a car and not be a laughing stock when I go through the grocery store, or I'm going out to lunch today. Brandon is coming with me. But the bottom line is I can go out to lunch today and I don't have to worry about breaking the chair. I don't have to worry about people laughing at me and pointing at me. That's freedom for me. That's freedom. I went on my first date with a girl when I was 35 years old. Let's continue on page 46. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe, underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. In other words, you can't stop at step 2. You got to keep going. You got to keep going quickly, not slowly. We found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek him. How do you seek him? By working the steps and helping others. To us, the realm of spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. It is open, we believe, to all men, all people. Top of 47. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies too to other spiritual expressions which you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. At the start, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth, to effect our first conscious relation with God as we understood him. Afterward, we found ourselves accepting many things which then seemed entirely out of reach. That was growth. But if we wished to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So we used our own conception, however limited it was. Now, as long as we've got the hood open, we are now going to examine the blood and guts of step 2. I told you we were going to read this sentence, and now we're ready. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. Now, we've already done spiritual awakening, spiritual experience back in chapter 3. We're not going to do it again next time we're here, but it's on page 567. If you want to reread it yourself after we're done, you can do that. Do I believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? You can be an atheist and believe that there is a power greater than yourself. Look at a river, the sky, the sun, the trees. Look at the babies. Look at people. Did you create that? Did that begin with you? Will it end when you're gone? No. There is a power greater than me. And I choose to call that power God. You can choose to call it anything you want. It really doesn't matter what you call it. It really doesn't matter how you conceive of it, as long as it's a power greater than yourself. Because your willpower, your human power, is insufficient in the face of this addiction. This addiction is greater than you. This addiction will kill you. So you need a power that is greater than you. And that is what we're talking about here. Do I believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? That's the guts of step 2. Can an agnostic recover? Yes. If you're not sure one way or the other, all you got to be willing to believe. Nobody said you had to believe. Be willing to believe that there is a power greater than yourself. Can an atheist recover who does not believe in a deity that is of divine origin? Yes. Many people believe that God is in nature. God is in love. God is in justice. God is in love, and, like I say, justice and freedom, and all those things represent God. Whatever it is to you, God is in many things. What is your music? What is your sphere? What is your way of believing? It's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Page 47. That was great news to us, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith which seemed difficult to believe. When people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, I wish I had what that man has. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes. But I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him. So it was comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level. Bottom of 47. Besides a seeming inability to accept much on faith, top of 48, we often found ourselves handicapped by obstinacy, sensitiveness, and unreasoning prejudice. Many of us have been so touchy that even casual reference to spiritual things made us bristle with antagonism. This sort of thinking had to be abandoned. Though some of us resisted, we found no great difficulty in casting aside such feelings. Faced with alcoholic destruction, we soon became as open-minded on spiritual matters as we had tried to be on other questions. In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader. It finally beat us into a state of reasonableness. Sometimes that was a tedious process. We hope no one else will be prejudiced for as long as some of us were. Are you willing to die because you won't surrender to a willingness to believe that there's a power greater than yourself? Really? Is this the hill you want to die on? Really? This is the hill you want to die on, because that's what you're faced with. That's what you're faced with. I either am willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself, or I'm going to die in the food. This is it. This is not a dress rehearsal. We don't get to come back and do this again. This is life. This is the only one we will ever have. If this is it, I want to live until I die. When I was a little boy, my father's friends mostly, not all of them, mostly came out of the concentration camps and the DP camps. If you don't know what a DP camp is, it stands for displaced persons. When the survivors of the concentration camps were awaiting transport, they were put in DP camps, which were obviously, there was food and there was, it wasn't as horrible as a concentration camp. And they would grab me and they would yank my cheek and my face and they would say, "Live until you die." And I thought for a long time, live until you die means I'm going to eat as many Reese's peanut butter cups as I can possibly eat, because that's my way of living. It took a few decades to find out that is not what that means. Quite the opposite. What it means is carpe diem. Carpe diem, seize the day. This may be it. My friend Gary in Chicago, March 15th, went to bed, wasn't sick, thin, in shape, healthy, no problems. Massive stroke during the night, never woke up. Massive stroke during the night. We don't know. Nobody's going to send you a memo, a post-it note, next Tuesday at noon, have all the fun you can, and spend your money and go and do the things. Nobody's going to give you a memo. Nobody's going to alert you to the time and date. It's going to happen when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. Seize the day. Carpe diem. This is it. We don't know. They'd say to me, live until you die. Live until you die. Don't ever sell life short. Wherever you are, whatever stage of recovery you're in or not in, turn it around. Do what you need to do. Get a sponsor, not one that sees you once a week or once every few. Get a sponsor, work the steps, do what you need to do to live in this world free of the fakakta food. The food is a lie. It never solved one problem. It never made me feel better for more than 10 seconds. It's a lie. And my brain will tell myself that lie because I have the built-in forgetter, the mental blank spot. So yes, I will again see pizza as something I want and need and deserve, and it's going to make me feel good, and I deserve it. But at the end of that pizza, am I going to be glad I ate the pizza? Never. I never woke up on a morning and said, man, am I glad I ate all that ice cream and shit in my pants. Man, am I glad I ate those French fries and those burgers and pissed in my pants. I never, ever woke up and said, am I glad I broke that guy's couch or I broke that guy's car interior. I never had that conversation with myself ever. Ever. Okay, let me write this down. Now, next Saturday, I'm counting on you guys that are not at the convention to be here, because we have two beautiful ladies that are going to speak to you. One is named Cindy and the other one's name is Kelsey. And they are fantastic ladies. And we have a meeting every day Sunday through Friday, a Scottsdale meeting, and it's in the evening, and it's on this Zoom room. It's in this Zoom room, and you should come if you can. They are people who are in beautiful recovery, and they are beautiful ladies, and they're going to speak to you while I'm at the convention. They will each speak for 30 minutes, and then you'll open it up for Q&A, just like you do with me. So the other announcement that I want to make to you is that on Thanksgiving Day, the Scottsdale group, which this is a part of the Scottsdale group, we're going to have a Thanksgiving Day marathon. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to have some fabulous speakers. We're going to have some fabulous recovery. It's on this Zoom room. I believe we're going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and we're going to go till 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. So 10 a.m., I believe, is 1 p.m. Eastern time to 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So you're not going to want to miss that. That is this Zoom room on Thanksgiving Day. So I hope you'll drop in for a while or drop in for as long as you want. We'll have some fellowship on Zoom, and we'll have some good speakers and stuff. So mark your calendars that on Thanksgiving Day, we're going to do that. And also, we have on coming up in January, we have the OA birthday. And that is usually on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday weekend. It's going to be in Los Angeles, as it is every year. I don't know how many of you do know this or don't know this, but OA was started in Los Angeles, California. The first meeting of OA was January 19th, 1960 in Los Angeles. And that's why the birthday is there every year. So that is something you may want to mark for your calendars, and take a trip out to California. For some of you, it'll give you a chance to get out of the cold weather for a couple of days. And I usually get in on the Wednesday before, and we have a meeting on Thursday. We have a lot of fun. The OA birthday is just a ton of fun. Great speakers, wonderful recovery. You'll be glad you went. I guarantee you a wonderful time will be held by all, and you will also hear some wonderful, wonderful recovering shares. Okay, Danny, let's open it up, or Sue, or I don't know who, Sue L or Danny or some.